Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Rick, and this is the Broadman word for um, Friday, September 12th, 2025. And first, a moment of prayer and sympathy and heartbreak for the family of Charlie Kirk, for the family of the students affected at the Annapolis Naval Academy, and for the violence just generally that seems to be so prevalent anymore. It is disturbing that we have divided ourselves up so fervently and so egregiously that it's now not okay to simply disagree with somebody, to have a different opinion, to voice words that somebody else doesn't like, being now dangerous and even life-threatening. Clearly, we've not lived up to our national standards that was envisioned for us by so many God-fearing men that put together the Declaration of Independence that clearly stated we all have certain unalienable rights from the Creator God. Of course, they didn't use the word God, they said the Creator, but everybody knows what they meant. And then they went on to craft the Constitution to enshrine those rights in a national foundational document. And so what we find ourselves in now is a time where we have turned from that belief system largely. There are still tens of millions of Christians in America, but through diluting ourselves and our ideologies with it, we have allowed the mass hyphenation of the word American. We have allowed ourselves to get broken up into ever smaller people groups, all with their own ideologies, their own purposes, and their own demand for resources and attention and all of the things that go along with it. And so now we are no longer seeing ourselves as valuable, beautiful creations of God, human beings. We're identifying ourselves with ideologies and people groups. And if somebody's not with your ideology or people group, that doesn't breed unity or understanding. It breeds hatred and division, and even more division. And so then it becomes easy to commit violence because you're not pulling a trigger on a human being. You're trying to eliminate an ideology that you find threatening. And so while it's unconscionable to us of good nature and of God and anybody of any reasonable sense at all that you would harm or murder another individual simply for disagreeing with you ideologically, it's not too terribly difficult when you step back from it and look at where our nation is to answer the question, why is it happening more and more? The demand for ever greater presence on social media and the need for eyeballs on screens and clicks and likes for the very survival of the media and social media and mega media companies demands that they put things on there that will get you to watch and will get you to click and will get you involved in whatever it is they need you to see, because they need the people, they need the audience. Otherwise, they become irrelevant quickly. And so between that and the natural escalation of things that comes from having to be first and most and greatest and fastest and all those other things, comes the finger pointing and the demonization of others because when you can say somebody else is bad, look at me, well then um, you can turn the tide, so to speak, against those who you disagree with. By vilifying and demonizing them, you can make them less than, and thus appear to be worth more, appear to be the answer, to have the answers. And so, in that way, you can have your particular view or your particular people group prosper. But it all comes where we are now by not paying attention to God and God's will and God's ways, and as a nation turning from it. The passages in Jeremiah 25:11 and on come to mind about God punishing a land because they turned from Him. So let's read Jeremiah chapter 25:11 and on. It says, "This whole country will become a desolate wasteland, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. But when the 70 years are fulfilled, I will punish the king of Babylon and his nation, the land of the Babylonians, for their guilt, declares the Lord, and will make it desolate forever. I will bring on that land all the things I have spoken against it, all that are written in this book and prophesied by Jeremiah against all the nations." So we see here that for their disobedience, the people of Judah, while they must have been heartbroken and fearful when they heard this word from the Lord, they hadn't listened to God. They hadn't turned from their evil ways. And finally, God says, "Hey, I'm going to put you under the king of Babylon," which, back then it was literal. They were literally going to be under the king of Babylon, which was a horrible existence for them. Metaphorically or theologically for us today, we're being put under the king of darkness, the king of division, separation, strife, anger, angst, all the things that are not in God's will and all the things that pervade our country. We're allowing those kings to rule over us like the king of Babylon would have ruled over the Judeans. And so, we shouldn't be surprised that things are getting awful. We're allowing them to become awful. And it is for the believing Christian to pray for this nation, pray for people, and to not example any sort of behavior that would in any way do anything except promulgate the teachings of Jesus Christ, the showing of the love of Jesus Christ, and being people who live like we have received the undeserved grace from God that we got in the form of our salvation, and wanting others to experience that very same thing. So while it's not unusual for God to allow a people to fall into ruin and disrepair, you can imagine that He's probably allowing America to have that right now. It is encouraging that God goes on to say that when those 70 years are over, He's going to conquer the king of Babylon and the Babylonian nation and make it desolate. So while we are going through this time of rule of Babylon, at least metaphorically, we need to never lose heart, first in the hope that we have in heaven, because that is guaranteed. But secondly, whether it's an actual 70 years or whatever time period we are being allowed to go through, we need to take heart, as the Judeans should have taken heart, that God is going to, at some point, conquer the darkness. Back then it was the Babylonian king and the nation of Babylon. For us today, He's going to come back and reign over the forces of darkness. Jesus will come back. We will all be taken up into the sky with him. We will all have perfect, righteous, glorified bodies. And Jesus will defeat the armies of the world and reign over a new heaven and a new earth forever. God will not let evil and darkness pervade forever. Whether it happens in our lifetime or not, who knows? God only knows, and his timing is perfect. But when we look around and we see all the incredible violence and other nonsense that's happening around us, we should just take heart that we have a good and loving God that will someday rectify it all. And until then, it's not for us to be excessively sad. We need to feel that what's going on all around us is the horror and the sin that it is, and we need to do what we're supposed to do about any of it: pray and live out the light that's in us. But then take peace in the fact that we have an all-knowing, all-loving God who will eventually make this all right. And until that day, it's just for us to do the work that we were put here to do and try to move the kingdom forward as best we can each and every day. So brothers and sisters, if you've been affected by violence, I pray for you. I feel for you. For those of us who might not have been directly affected by it, but were emotionally distraught, I pray for you. I'm there with you. I feel for you. I can see the despair. I feel the despair myself, wondering what has happened to this beautiful nation I once knew. But I do know I serve a mighty, good, and loving God, and whatever 70 years or version of it that he's allowing us to go through will be over someday, and all will be well, and we will be victorious with Christ, and that is where I choose to leave my focus. Listen, I love you. You have a marvelous day in the Lord. Take care.